Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Slegaitis-Smith, and if you are new to the channel, welcome you. And if you're old hat, welcome back. This is a channel where we like to talk about writing, learning, and creating, and we're going to be digging into some things dealing with the fact that it's now 2021. We made it! So this is not a video that I'm using to talk about goals. I already made a goals video as my last video of 2020. You can find links for that above and below. Check it out if you are interested in what my goals are for this coming year. Although I will talk a little bit about specific changes that I'm planning on making to this channel. So in particular, if you're new, you may find this interesting. If you're old, you also find it interesting because there are going to be some changes that I'm hoping that our community will be able to enjoy. But I'm also going to be talking about the whole transition experience between years, because with the fact that we've all been making goals, everyone usually tends to have a New Year's resolution. In general, most people kind of have the bar set at a very low point, just better than last year. But regardless of what your goals are and where your bar is set, there are some important things to talk about in order to make sure that your goals are being achieved. So first we'll talk about the changes that are going to be upcoming to our channel, and then we'll get into how you can actually manage to do those goals that you have set for yourself. So now that we're starting to build a little bit of a family here, and I know we're still pretty small, but that's okay. We're going to be still trucking right along. If you haven't done so yet, how about you hit that subscribe button and help this family grow a little bit bigger? But I'm finally being able to talk to some of you a little bit more and get some ideas about what you're interested in, what you're learning. And so because of that, I'm going to be taking that into account into the videos that we're making this year. So I'm going to be starting to incorporate more analysis of story and craft elements that show up in video games and other forms of media besides just novel writing. I write novels, but I'm also a massive geek across quite a few different playing fields, and I've had quite a few fun conversations with some people here on the channel about different video game characters, different elements of plot in video games. So it seems like that's something that you're pretty interested in. So we're going to be digging into that a little bit more. So if you have specific games that you would like an analysis for, leave that in the comment section so that I can include them on my to-do list for coming up videos. Also, on the writing side of things, I'm not completely deserting the novel sector because that is the sector that I'm the most familiar with as far as actually creating content for. But because of the fact that I just recently finished another work in progress, I am entering a new realm of editing phases where I have two novels that are in two different stages of editing at this point, and then I have a fresh zero draft project that I've just finished. So with the fact that editing is such a live experience for me at the moment, I thought it would be great to do an editing series. So my very next video is actually going to be the start of that editing series, where instead of telling you how I edit or how you should edit, which is what I see a lot of on AuthorTube, I am simply going to be presenting you with every single editing form that I can possibly find in order to give you some options about what you can do for your work, because we're all individuals. We all have different processes, different ways of doing things, and when you're going to start a daunting task like editing, particularly your first ever editing project, it can be really hard to know what to do, how to go about things. So I'm going to try to present you with as many different editing options as possible so that you can find something that works for you so that you can really get that project finished, and we're going to be digging into that as well. Those are the major shifts and plans that I have without going into too much detail for the channel. If you have other things that you want to see incorporated into this channel, specific topics you would like me to talk about, always feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I want to do everything that I can to help out the community that we're building here. I don't care if we stay small forever. If I'm helping 3 people, if I'm helping 1 person, that's what I'm here for. So if you have specific questions, things that you would like me to do for you, comment section, hit it up. Now let's talk about achieving our goals, because we've all made them and we're already having a rough start to 2021. There's some crazy stuff already going on in the world and people are like, 2020 is back. 2020 really didn't go anywhere, unfortunately. When we go through these year transitions, one of the big things that causes us to fail in reaching our goals is the fact that we think just the date changing is enough to change us. And it's not. We actually have to make the effort to change ourselves. And I'm not attacking anybody here, I'm not attacking myself, but it is something that we need to recognize. In order to achieve our goals, we have to realize that we need to change things in ourselves to actually make that happen. So if you have planned out a new habit you want to start, like a new exercise routine, because that's a pretty common one for people to have at the start of a new year. If you have a new exercise routine that you want to do, but you're not making any actual habit changes, you're just like, oh, I'm just going to start going to the gym every day. That's not going to be sustainable. You're going to drop that goal pretty fast because you didn't do any changes to yourself to help you achieve that goal. If you have a goal like that, some things that you can do to help you achieve it is to start slow. Add in one positive habit, build it up until it's stronger, and then add in the next habit, then the next habit, then the next habit. It's all about taking the steps necessary to change yourself. And that's one of the reasons why, as much as it is heartbreaking to me to see what's going on at the start of this year so far, I'm also not surprised to see what's happening at the start of this year so far. Nobody changed their hearts on New Year's Eve. Nobody changed their minds on New Year's Eve. That is something that we have to work on and progress towards in the future. So let's get some tips and tricks on how to start changing our hearts and changing our minds so that we can actually be successful with our goals. Neither changing your heart nor changing your mind are easy, quick fixes, which is something that we've become very attached to, particularly in the age of modern conveniences. So don't think that anything that you plan to do is going to be a quick change. It's going to take some work, it's going to take some grit, but sticking with it is definitely worth it. Let's talk about the heart changes first, because they kind of will really affect your mind changes. I mean, everything's very related as far as like things with changing your heart and changing your mind in order to build new habits and have new ways of doing things. But we got to start somewhere, so that's where we're starting. The first thing you can do to change your heart is to change what you're steeping yourself in. And I may be using a tea metaphor just because I love tea. Like, tea's good. I like tea. But it is also very important. We're all steeping ourselves in something, and if you're gonna be steeping yourself in pond water, you're not gonna get a good cup of tea out of that. You gotta make sure that what you're putting into yourself, what you're spending the most time with, is going to be building you up in the areas that you want to improve in. So, for instance, if you're trying to improve your writing, steep yourself in people giving writing advice, like all the other author tubers here on YouTube, including me. There are so many out there that you could just be steeping yourself in, and your writing will start to improve because you're steeping yourself in that. Same thing for exercise. Start putting more people and things around you that help motivate you to be exercised. You're steeping in it. You're letting it soak into yourself. And that is what is going to soften and change your heart from other, maybe more lazy tendencies. I know that I have like lazy tendencies as far as working out is concerned. Like, working out is good. I love doing it when I'm doing it, but I sure have to fight to convince myself to actually do it. It's a weird balance. But it has to do with what you're steeping yourself in. And most of the time, what I'm steeping myself in is writing, TV, video games, and other things that are requiring me to sit. Even teaching right now is just requiring me to sit in a chair. So none of that is going to help me towards that goal unless I actually do some changes and steep myself in something that will help me to get there. Also, with social media and all the other influencing bits and even regular news, right now, a lot of the news that we're getting is so negative that if you're trying to change into a positive mindset, a positive heart set, those things are not helping you. And it's not really a new thing to discuss either, because people have known for a long time that there's a lot of negativity that comes out of social media and other things. And so you really need to change what you're steeping yourself in. If it's negative and you're trying to change into a positive mindset, you got to cut off that negative, even if it's something that you usually go to. So make sure that you are steeping yourself in something that will help you to achieve your goal, because that will help change your heart towards whatever it is you're trying to do so that you can actually be successful with it. Another thing that you can do to change your mindset, I'm using it. Another thing that you can do to change your heart set is to listen to other people. And that kind of sounds like it would be something to change your mind, but you can't really listen to other people unless your heart is there to listen to them. Like, your brain is really good at taking in information and then you don't retain it. Think about your high school classes. How many of your high school classes do you remember the lectures of? Exactly. Because you didn't let it sink into your heart, you weren't listening through your heart, it didn't stay. If it was a topic you were passionate about, that sunk into your heart because it was your passion and you're able to remember those things. But if it's not, then it doesn't, and it doesn't hit, and it doesn't stay. And this is actually where a lot of our problems are rooted, because instead of listening to each other, we are just filtering words through our brains. We need to work on changing our hearts to listening hearts in order to actually be able to hear people and understand where they are coming from, and also to then learn from them. So if you really want to pick up a new skill, if you really want to change a way that you're doing something habit-wise, you need to learn how to shift to a listening heart. And the first way that you shift to a listening heart is by not reacting to what is said to you at first, because very often if you're in a conversation with someone, you're talking back really fast, especially if you're like an northern East Coast American. It's just something, people talk really fast. Conversations are very fast, and everything is just back and forth really fast. That's how conversation works, but that's not really listening. It's intaking information and it's outputting information, and it's doing it too quick for it to actually sink in anywhere. So when you are trying to learn how to listen and really listen in the heart area, you need to take the time to not react to what someone is saying. So instead of thinking about your ideas about what they're saying, because even if you're silent, still going on. I see you. I see you. It's in here. It's still going. Especially if you're a thinker, it's still going. You gotta hold off on that. And that is something that you gotta check yourself on regularly in order to learn that happen, because thoughts are instant. They happen fast. So you really gotta work on changing your mindset for your heart set's sake as far as that's concerned. So what that would look like is you're in a conversation with someone. They're saying something to you and your brain is already working on thinking about what you're going to say next or how you feel about that conversation topic. You need to go, nope, listening now, and just keep soaking in that information. That soaking in is where the heart change comes from. Learning how to soak it in, what someone else is saying without making a reaction. And it's what allows you to listen and hear. This is something that I feel like writers are better at than other people, because by our nature, we're coming up with different viewpoints. Not every character that unless you're Mary Sueing like crazy, not every character you come up with shares your viewpoints on things. In fact, I would say that in order to write a good story, you need to write characters who have different viewpoints from you. And so we're more practiced in getting into other people's shoes and getting to see things from others' perspectives. So I feel like that's probably going to be a little bit of an easier skill. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it will be a little bit easier if you're a writer or a creator in that kind of avenue, to be able to make this heart shift to soaking in and actually listening with your heart information, so that you actually get it in your heart, not just in your head. And speaking of heads, that's where we're going to get into the mental changes that we need to do. This is where all the strategizing comes in, because your brain does well with logical procedures. Even if you don't think of yourself as a very logic-oriented person or a very list-oriented person, it is very useful and helpful to your brain to have essentially contingency plans. So for instance, with my goals that I set up for this year, I have a 3-tier goal list. I have my lofty goals, what I would really love to accomplish. I have my more realistic goals, which is more true to the habits that I had last year, but slightly modified to start heading towards the improvements I want. And then I have my bare minimum goals, where if I at least succeed in these areas, then I've been successful with my goals for the year. This isn't because of the fact that I'm expecting myself to fail. I'm simply setting up contingency plans for life that's going to come up in the way. Because if 2020 taught us anything, it was definitely that life will not go how you plan it. If you didn't know that yet, you do now. So this is building in contingency plans to help you be successful. A contingency plan is not a plan for failure. It's a plan for success when things get thrown off course. So for instance, I'm saying for instance a lot. I'm looking at some potentially very difficult things coming ahead. One, school is just it's just a huge challenge right now that I cannot predict what's happening with it, what is going to go on, what changes are going to happen. So that is a complete mess. And then there's other areas that I'm very concerned about. There's health issues in my family, not disease specific related, but other health issues in my family that might be causing some problems that I'm looking at being a potential thing in my future. These are things that could easily derail, particularly my ideal goals for the year. So you've got to make yourself lists and organizational tools in order to make sure that you can still do your goals, even if you have to shift which tier of goal you're on so that you're still successful. And maybe for like a couple days, I'm in ideal goal zone where I'm doing everything that I want to. And a couple days I'm in that like normalized tier, and other days I'm in that like bare minimum tier. You can move between those because it's a contingency plan, not a failure plan. So for setting up these contingency plans, you can go about it several different ways. If you're someone who's really good at planning like all of the things, then you can plan as many things as you're capable of planning and you're good to go. If you're someone who struggles more in that area, I have a few suggestions for you. One, you can get something that helps you to keep track of what your goals are and what you're trying to do. There's quite a few different ways out there to do, and I'm going to suggest a few apps for you to check out. I'm not sponsored by any of these apps. They're not affiliated with the channel in any way, but these are apps that I've found useful in the past. One of them is Habitica. So it's like Habit, C-A, Habitica. And essentially it allows you to set up different goals that you have for the day, different goals you have for in general, the week, the month, the year, etc. And it sets it up in like a video game format where you're able to like level a character based off of your completion of your tasks, and you're able to go on quests, and as you complete things on your to-do list, it helps you to accomplish those quests, and you can buy gear and stuff like that. So because I love video games and fantasy in particular, and it's kind of like a fantasy game setup, I've been finding it very useful to me for making sure that I'm keeping all those things in order. And unlike some other apps, like where you just have today's to-do list, you can have like, this is a general habit that I'm trying to build, or this is something that is like for this month. You can put due dates on things. So I find that very easy to work with and very useful because of the fact that it's able to go across all these different areas. Another app that I will mention that I only recently started using is called Microsoft To Do. And this is more of your standard to-do list where you're able to make your daily list. But it's also great for collaboration because, well, actually both apps are great for collaboration because you can get involved with friends. You can sync up accounts so that you can, in Habitica, you can use it to quest together. In Microsoft To Do, you can use it to work on tasks together. So let's say you're on a creative team of some kind. You can all hook up your Microsoft To Do account list, and you can have a project that you're working on and the tasks that need to be completed. You can assign those tasks to different people, and you can also mark off as you complete. Each of you can mark off as you complete different tasks on that list. Both of these apps are free, both are good, and both have like multiple versions that are similar out. Like on Habitica side, another one that's very common is Level Up Your Life, I believe it's called. And so there's a bunch of ones out there like that. So if you don't know how to make a list yourself, if you need something that will help you to hold accountable, get an app. I mean, we're in the age of there's an app for that. That's probably a quote that I need to register somewhere. So whoever said that first, credit to them. I don't know who it was. But yeah, make use of what you have available. If you need a more analog way, you can make spreadsheets with Excel, with Microsoft Word, with Google Docs, with whatever the Mac version is, because I don't use Mac. But you can set up a list for yourself where these are my to-dos for today. This is my to-dos for the month. These are the habits that I'm trying to do. So use all those categories that you can also fill in those apps, but just make like an analog version. And then you can check it off. You can have it in your bedroom or on your fridge and just go through and check off those lists, because that organization is going to help your mental change to happen. You have to work for a long time to build a new habit. It only takes a couple days to throw it off. It takes many days in order to work and make sure that you're doing it. So setting up a list of things that you need to do is the way to make sure that you're actually doing those things regularly. And I've said this before about writing and about other things. Accountability is everything. So let someone know about your goals and let them hold you accountable to actually accomplishing them. That's another way to help change you mentally, because not everybody's used to being accountable to somebody anymore. I mean, we're accountable to our bosses and our jobs that we have, but aside from that, accountability is kind of like, I wouldn't say fallen out of fashion, but it's not talked about as much anymore. But it's still incredibly important. So if you want to change your mental habits, find an accountability partner. It can be a sibling, it can be a parent, it can be a friend, it can be an online community, but find someone who will help you by being like, hey, did you do that thing? Find someone who you give permission to be annoying to you. Because you need someone who's going to nag you to help you build that habit. When you start out, it will be a nagging. They'll have to constantly remind you, so they have to be willing to do a lot of that. But let them annoy you into making sure that you actually do the things that you want to do, because it's all helping you towards that goal. So let them annoy you. It's a good thing. It really is. This was just a short video talking about some of the things that I've noticed and that I have experienced, but there are plenty of experts out there who have literally devoted their whole careers towards studying motivation and goal setting and goal achievement. So do some research, find things that work for you. That's gonna about wrap us up for today. If you are excited about the changes and the things that are gonna be coming down the line on this channel, give a like to this video. Let me know what you're interested in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. If you need some accountability help, also put that in the comments so we can start supporting each other more and being helpful to each other. Other than that, just have a great one. Until the next one.